Okay, another episode of Stampscapes U. What I want you to do is to grab all of your grayscale or just your compositional layouts, okay? And what we've done is we've just stamped out really quick and easy stamp sketches, what I call them, just doing the layouts, okay, no coloring whatsoever. And what we've done with these is we've applied tone using a grayscale, just your grays and blacks to achieve a nice kind of tonal range in these scenes and to establish lighting within them. All right, now we've done them in different ways. You might have applied more of a certain color, less of another. Maybe there's less contrast than what I have in some of these. Mine are all different. Some of mine get a little bit darker than other ones, but it doesn't matter. What we want here is we want kind of an established lighting scheme and just kind of a rounding of the forms by applying certain types of shadows in certain areas, just in a real easy, quick and easy manner, okay? Now, this is just one way to work. I don't always just go stamp sketch, then grayscale, and then coloring. That just happens to be a methodology that makes it really easy to, for the beginning kind of light creator, light's a stamper of light, you might say. It sounds corny, but it makes it really easy for us to kind of establish that range of values and lighting when we're not thinking about things like logically, like, okay, that grass is green or something like that. We're just looking at tone and looking at shadows, and it's very easy to see that when you're just doing grayscale. Now, I think these grayscale scenes look really good, just in terms, of it being a final product. But I know a lot of people like color. Most people do, okay? And it's really easy to establish these lighting schemes within a scene, and then just to colorize right over the top. It's a little bit different to do it that way than to utilize color to establish lighting, okay? The scene looks a little bit different when we do it that way, when we don't utilize just grays and blacks for our foundation lighting schemes, okay? But they can look pretty good. I think this one was one where I just used one of my grayscale lighting schemes, and I applied color over the top of it for this kind of dusk, sunset dusk type of scenario. Okay, so that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with in this video, I'm going to be utilizing these Stamp Sketch Plus grayscale tonal ranges for some additional colors, okay? And we'll save some of these other ones that I didn't color over for a later video, but let's just keep this one really simple right now. And what I have right now is I have a range of some different hues, okay? So this hue is blue, but I have a range of light, medium, and dark. These are dye-based inks as well. We have some greens here, kind of a light and medium. You can throw in a dark too. You can mix and match too, okay? You can see I have some Mementos. I have Marvy tones right here. Let me see, I think I have another green that's really good, if I'm not mistaken. I sometimes forget which pads I have. I don't have this kind of photographic memory, but that looks good there. See, this peeled paint is a little bit lighter than this Memento one. So I can throw that there, and a range of browns, okay? So kind of a lighter shade of brown is usually something like tan. So here's an antique linen. I have a desert sand, rich cocoa, and walnut stain. Walnut stain's a little bit more of a kind of a warm version of this rich cocoa, a little bit more yellow in it. So that could be my range right there, and you can just mix and match, okay? Blue tones with Marvy. All right, now this isn't to say that you can't do a sunset scene or something like that. You just pick out some yellows, oranges, pinks, something like that. Just pick out a range, okay? And you can do violets or something like that if you want to. I can go with something like this, and it's no harder in terms of line out your colors than just going from light to dark like that. All right, so that's what we're going to do here, and we'll show you how easy it is to apply these types of color schemes within your scene, okay? All right, now I'm just going to go with a paper towel here. I just kind of wad it up and kind of smash it down a little bit to kind of soften up the textures in there, and paper towels often have kind of a decorative little pattern to it. This one has to be like a circle. I'll probably go for about a half sheet right here, okay? If you have some stylus tools that you have, go ahead and use those. All right, now it doesn't matter what scenes you're going with, okay? Let me show you some kind of fundamentals on how to apply these colors, okay? And then we'll apply them to whatever ones you want, and depending on what type of subject matter you have in them, okay? Let's see, some I have grass, and there's a dirt road and some grass to the side of it. All right, but let's just keep it easy right here. Well, all of these are going to be easy, but let's go with this one right here. It's just blue tones, okay? Now, if you're doing this on these grayscale scenes that you've already established, we already have our lighting established, okay? So we can approach these a little bit different than if we're just going on straight with a stamped sketch that has no coloring on here whatsoever, no tonal gradations yet, okay? But these ones right here, we don't have to do too much to them because we have our lighting already established. So the challenge for us in this video is to retain some semblance of lighting, okay? Meaning, I probably would leave some of these areas that are light just as that, okay? So I want to be careful when toning over them, okay? Now this is a summer sky memento, okay? It's fairly light in value because I'm going to start off with my lightest tone. Okay, now see, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start applying this, and I'll apply it in the darker areas. You're going to think that nothing's being applied, though, if you haven't done this before. You're going to go like this and think, oh my gosh, there's nothing on there. Well, it's because you're putting a really light tone over a tone that's darker than that, okay? But that's not a lost cause. See, do you see this right here? This, let me put a little bit more on here. Do you see how kind of different that tone is right there, than over here? That little bit of blue tint is starting to affect kind of the overall feel of it. You can see it down here. Doesn't it take on kind of a beautiful, kind of a little bit richer grayscale, you know, gray in this case, okay? I'll put it up here in the sky as well. This one we don't have to go with too many tonal hue changes because this is just going to be a nighttime type of scene. Okay, so I'm applying this exactly where all of my grays are, especially the dark grays. All right, now here's the thing. I want to get in a little bit of this white area or just lighter area, like right in here, okay? So maybe I'll just put a little streak across there, but I'll retain some of the white. You don't have to. I mean, I can tone this all in and it takes on kind of more of a somber look, being that the lighting isn't as stark. Or on this moon right here, maybe I want a little bit of tone, so I'll just kind of streak it across like that. And you see that? Where I've retained some of the white, so I went a little bit down here and a little bit up here, but it's very pale. But look at that kind of glowing, cool light now that we have in here. And see, it's because it's over here. It's not obvious if I put it over here, but it's a little bit more obvious where there's less ink, less of that gray and black that was applied, okay? All right, now this is, like I said, it's very quick when you do it this way. There's summer sky. I'm moving to my medium tone blue. Okay, mix and match, like I said, or, okay, look at that blue right in there. I have to be careful with this one. That one is a little bit darker than I thought, but I still like the look. But see that? I'm still retaining some of that light. Okay, now the darker we go, and also our pad is getting kind of, you know, soaked. Actually, let me fix my pad here. It's a little bit sloppy. Let me go like this. I was using too many of the edges. There we go. So that's a perfect applicator like that. Nice and, I don't know, thicker than your thumb, maybe double thumb size. Okay. Ink up like so. Okay. And just tone in like that. See, if I go from the outside in like that, I can get a lighter version of it in that lighter area. Okay. So flipping it around, outside in, wet to dry, dark to light. If you have some things like alcohol markers, you know, this is a great tool right here, but it's not great for getting in like smaller, tighter, harder to reach areas, so you can just take light, medium, dark pens as well, like this one. This is an alcohol marker. Hard to get underneath this wave with something like that, right? But you can just take your alcohol marker and just color right in exactly where you want it to go. I'm doing it in the shadowy areas here. If there's a dark area on the stamp, that's a seaside cove. A lot of people are picking this one up. I'm glad you are, because it's a real universal stamp and pretty widely applied. People think that it's a little bit more specialized because it's so large, but I almost never use it in its entirety. You can use it for different parts. It's like 5 stamps in one. Okay. All right, so adding this in. So see what I mean? Everything is really easy to do because everything has already been established. We could stop right there, too. It doesn't have to go any darker. But just for the sake of range, let's go with this. Darker colors, stay on the perimeter a little bit more. You can see where you've laid down your colors. Your tonal gradations are already kind of established, right? So you add the dark into the darks and keep your lights light, right? If I want this to be more of like a, you know, a warm tone, kind of real welcoming type of hue in here, I can add some green or something like that. Let's see if we can change the spirit of this piece a little bit. Let's try the peeled paint. Okay. You can go with pinks in here. That would look kind of cool for some violet tones. This is a little bit of peeled paint. Let's go for a real light shade of it first, okay? Can you see that right in there? How it's kind of changed that spirit of it, huh? It looks a little bit more aqua, right? Like some warm waters of Caribbean or something like that. It's kind of just warming up some of those, you know, areas like that. I didn't warm it up hugely because it's supposed to be kind of a nighttime type of scene, but look at that. Fun stuff. I mean, that could be done right now. I can go back to my blue here again. Maybe I want to add a little bit of a deeper blue in some areas like this. Okay. Okay, just kind of remember to retain your light. It's easy to kind of eradicate it all at this point in time because we're going with such a, you know, much darker ink, but just remember to stay a little bit more perimeter oriented with that. All right, now I think that could use a little bit of brightness. I'll try the Marvy one in here. This number 10 blue is really bright. I'll just use my same applicator here though, so it's a little bit of blend of both. Look at that. You see that blue right there? That's what Marvy can do for you. Now, you don't need a ton of Marvy. This one blue Marvy just brightened up all those other colors like that. See that depth and richness right there? I like to have a little bit of a tonal range. I usually don't like everything real super bright like that. I like it contrasted against kind of your more mellow, kind of dull colors, okay? I don't mean dull in terms of interesting, it just a lot of inks just don't have the same intensity as Marvy might have. But too intense everywhere, for me it's too much. So I like different inks for different reasons, and I utilize different inks for their own strengths. Okay. So see that right there? You know, I think that's about right. And that was an easy type of feel. I took a little bit longer on that one because I just, I added some warmth into it. But, okay, let's go on to our next one. One down. I don't know how many I'll do on this one. Let's just go to this one right here. Let's just use some blues in this one. All right, let's try some Marvy ones, okay? Now I have a little bit of that number 10 blue in here already, okay? But I'm just going to be doing a mix on here, so where's our light passage? Our light is right in here, okay? See how we hit our shadows in here a lot? Let's hit those shadows a lot more with color, okay? I like to keep my water kind of streaky. So I'll streak across like that, and I'll leave some areas just untouched, okay? See, like that? All right. A little bit darker here, huh? I almost feel like there's some kind of resistance in there for some reason. I don't know why. It's kind of resisting my ink. I don't know, maybe it's the dried Memento or something like that, sealing the paper off slightly. Okay, something like that. Let me pull out my Prussian blue. Prussian blue is really quite dark. The color, Marvy color. Yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of this resistance on the surface. It's kind of nice though because I can kind of pull things around almost like you can with like alcohol inks. You know how you can kind of give it that kind of watercolor effect. Like when I go in here, it's almost like removing ink. But I'll just kind of work with that dynamic, okay? And get this real kind of amorphic types of applications here. I'll show you what I mean here, close up. You see this right where see I kind of wiped across here and it wiped some color off, or right in here, can you see where it's kind of looks like it's stretching that area? But that looks good for water, in terms of water textures. One of the things I like to do for things like rocks sometimes is I can take a little bit of green and put a little moss on them. Not all rocks have moss on them like this, but you could do something like that. It's just, it adds a little bit of a warmth into a composition. The last time in this other scene I put that green into the water, but this one right here, it's just kind of on those rocks like that. But you notice how I'm keeping some of those rocks light, right? So you get that oscillation of light and dark and light. Warm and cool in here as well. See that? A little bit light on top there. All right, so that is that. Now, on all of these, one of the things that I really love doing is I like going into them and adding in embellishments, okay? So, we're not going to get to that in this video, but things like gel pens, white pigment ink, and so on and so forth. We'll apply some of that over our colored pieces later on. Okay, let's take a look at this Milky Way. I just did a bunch of these in a recent video. Not this one right here. This one was done for a stamp sketch, but on here it's a little bit harder to tell what to leave light and dark, okay? Well, on this one it happens to be we're going to, the areas that are light and dark on here are that, but I'm talking about for up in the sky. So I just like to leave some of these areas in here a little bit lighter, especially around some of those lighter stars, the bigger stars. Okay, so let's go in with some this. Let me use some Memento. A lot of you don't have that. If you have like a tumbled glass, blue distress ink, that would be fantastic. Just any kind of light blue, okay? Dye-based ink. All right. So tinting in this blue in here. I want to leave some of these clouds a little bit light, like it's reflecting light from some sort of light source. I just have it as the Milky Way, kind of creating that lighting, which wouldn't really be so, they wouldn't be so light like this, but this is kind of a dream-like world or whatnot. Okay. So you get something like that. So that's all you need right there. That's with the blue. Let's add a little bit of pink to this. Okay. Here's a Marvy pink. I'm not sure what the pink is in Distress Inks. There probably is one, or the Memento. I just don't have any of them, so I'm just going to use my Marvy. Okay. That's too bright of a pink right there. So what I do is I just really kind of, and that's not wasted ink there too. What I'm kind of doing is I'm kind of smashing the ink back into the paper towel a little bit, and then I'm smoothing out that paper towel. Okay, now let's take a look and see what this looks like. You know, a little bit of pink over some of that blue forms a little bit more of a violet tinge. Okay. So I get a little bit of variation between the blue and the pink. Coming into that Milky Way a little bit more with some of that pink, so that the pink just reads as just straight pink. Okay. Like that. Do you see that little tinge in there? It's very subtle. I mean, we can make it bolder by just using more ink, not wiping, you know, so much of it off, like that. Okay, but let's go back to some blue now. Let me go with a little bit of a darker blue. Let me go with we went with Summer Sky. Here, let me use the Bahama blue here. Alright, ooh, the Bahama blue is pretty dark. So be careful. Pretty juicy. My pad, I'm talking about. Okay. So remember to retain some of your light areas, okay? It's easy to kind of eradicate them in this process right here when you start moving into the medium tones or whatnot. Darker tones too, it depends on how wet your pad is, but just don't take it into those lighter areas quite so fast. Stay a little bit more perimeter oriented like this. See this right here? Every time I re-ink it, and then kind of come into it with a real light touch, and then you'll get a feel for how much ink you're applying and how dark it's going to become with your process, okay? All right, so we got that. You see that right in there? See, isn't that kind of little pink tinge in there kind of cool? So we've retained our light areas in here. All right, so that is that. I mean, like I said, we can come in and we can address these things a little bit more. All right, now, these take on, the scenes kind of take on a certain type of spirit when you do this kind of grayscale type of thing right here. That's a little bit different than, like I said, just coloring in directly onto the scene with our color scheme. Like this could be a sunset or something like that. And it would have brighter warm tones than if I do gray underneath it all as kind of a base coat, okay? But like I said, I wanted you to really kind of focus in on your lighting here. All right, let's take a look at this one. Let's do a little bit of a tonal change on this one right here. This one's a waterfall, babbling brook. Let's go with a kind of a blue water. A lot of people associate water with blue, okay? It's because it is, you know, most of the time, if it's reflecting the colors of the sky. But it isn't always. If you look at, you know, a body of water at, you know, under a brilliant sunset, I don't twilight sky or something like that, sunrise, it's usually the colors of the sky mirrored off of that water surface. So, it can look all different ways. There's more kind of a character to it than a single hue. Okay, so that's blue in there. But now let's change these rocks a little bit. Let's put these rocks. I'm just going to use my pink side like this because that color will be somewhat related to what we're doing here. But let's add a little bit of antique linen to those rocks. Let's kind of make it like a brown or red rock type of thing. Oh, here's some water up here too. Let me put a little bit of a tinge of this, but I'll leave that fairly light. Okay. There's a little bit more water up here. I didn't do that. Kind of that up there. See, it's a real pale version of that one that I did. Let's go back to this pink, and let's go in with this antique linen over the top. Okay. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of giving it that other type of color scheme within here. Kind of getting into some really specific areas would probably be better with alcohol markers or just markers in general. If you have some Tombos or La Plumes, you can color with those. All right, so there's one tone of brown like that. I can zoom out a little bit. There's a Memento Desert Sands. Probably not going to affect things at all. Yeah, maybe a tad bit warmer than the antique linen, just a touch. Okay. All right. How about walnut stain? I really like walnut stain and antique linen together. Okay, this isn't giving me quite what I want, but I'm providing a nice base coat right now. What I'm thinking about is kind of more of your red rock, type of kind of coloration to these. I thought it would contrast nicely against that blue. All right, so let's start moving it into kind of more of a reddish tinge. Okay, let's go with this Potter's Clay Memento. I'm sure there's some kind of aged, type of orangish red distress that would probably be really good. It didn't affect it too much here. By the way, I'm using my paper towel. If you have a stylus tool would be better for a little bit more exact kind of application. But I just want to use what I know people will have on hand for sure. Or at least have access to it. Okay, so let me try dabbing here for a little bit of a stronger application. Get it built up a little bit. Sometimes when you wipe like this, you're wiping color off as well. All right, so anyways, kind of getting in that kind of direction at least with that color. Let's see here. Now that I've established that darker rocks, let me go into this water with a little bit of a darker blue. I've just switched out to my blue side of my applicator here. Ooh, that is really dark. Let me wipe some of it off first. This is Prussian blue. It's so dark. Fantastic. I might run some of it up into the rock as well, just so it doesn't have such a change in hue from water to rock. I like to blend them in a little bit with each other. So this is adding a little bit more shading to the scene, just for the fact that you're going with a hue that's a value so dark of a given hue. All right, so there's that. Let's warm this up a touch. Let me see, where is that? I do have another blue. Oh, it's no wonder I haven't used it for a while. It's right on the bottom of a stack of pads in the back. Okay, this is a Caribbean blue. For years I didn't really use it because it wasn't within Marvy's kind of first 40 colors of Marvy matchables that were released. This one's like number 104. That's just the name of their pens too, but it was like a secondary set of colors that they released. And it's just a warmer hue, warmer version, warmer temperature blue. Okay, yeah, look at that. See that? How that kind of affects that? Yeah, if you really want to kind of add this kind of welcoming type of spirit into a body of water, you know, a little bit of a warmer tinge usually kind of can bring that out. All right, so there is that. You have brown rocks and blue waters, blue-green waters. Let's add that in here too. This can really use a little jolt of that Caribbean blue, I think. Maybe this is in the Caribbean right here. Kind of warmer, welcoming waters. Go up for a nice overnight sail. Social distancing was never so good, huh? As this location. Okay, so let's do that in here. Why not? I think it's kind of adding a little bit of richness to the scene, huh? Sometimes with one more color. This one is strange, though. It kind of that dynamic in there of kind of the resistance. All that. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go with something a little bit warmer. Just in general, I've been doing blues, 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 okay? And a little bit of purple in that one. This one right here. That one would look good with Caribbean blue, but I don't want to go crazy with that. Maybe I already have. Okay, so antique linen. Let's go with this. This is, I mean, it's kind of, the spirit of this is already kind of like dusk type of thing. Who knows? Maybe it's dawn, you know. Doesn't look like that, I know, but just this will be a little bit more related to I don't know, warmer tones, okay? So I'm just adding this in. This is antique linen. It's a great base coat for any type of color scheme you want to go with. It could be any temperature scheme too. Sometimes that antique linen looks good under an overall cool color scheme. It just has this little tinge of warmth, you know, that can be very subtle. Okay, this is the peeled paint, distress ink. Okay, I'm going to try to keep some of this fairly light, you know, throughout here. I don't know, if I end up toning it all out, I'll be fine. But just in general, kind of leave some areas, leave a little bit of that oscillation of light and dark within there, like that. Okay, now where do you add darker areas? Well, underneath trees. Trees often leave shadows, right? So I can kind of add a little bit more color into those areas, like this. Okay. Let's go with pear tart and bamboo leaves. When you get into your, I don't know, third or fourth color, that's when people start to really lose their lighting because they've colored everything in too much. So that just means kind of, you know, when you apply your inks, you know, the darker you get, kind of put on the brakes a little bit. do quite as much of an application of that given color. I mean, that Memento was, I don't know, a few seconds worth of toning. See underneath the trees like that? We'll have this chapel casting a shadow. There's a lot of shadows over here. It's in the design itself. I've drawn shadows into that area. I'm getting a little bit onto my chapel, but that's okay. Sometimes that brings a little bit of continuity between, an object within a given composition and the colors surrounding it. The colors surrounding it will often be reflecting onto the object, especially if the object is supposed to be something like, I don't know, like a white chapel here or something like that. Okay, so I need a new paper towel here. Let's go for some more green tones. Okay. Oh, I wasn't going to... It's always like the last... Oh, here. There's some greens right here. Looks like I do have a Memento, a darker Memento. Cottage Ivy. Gosh, I don't remember using this at all. Okay, kind of hitting this in the shadow areas. Tapering it too. Alright, it's going from light to dark, or dark to light. Dark on the outside, lighter on the inside. See that? How it's added that shadow right there? This is quite a bit darker. Those previous colors. Okay. Alright, so a little bit of green tinges in it. A little bit's too stark in there, isn't it? Too stark white. So what I do is I go back to my lighter tones in here. Maybe the bamboo leaves or the peeled paint. Or we can go with I don't know, a different color altogether, like a antique linen, I don't know, something like that. Okay, here's the bamboo leaves. I think it could use a little tinge in there. So you go back to your lighter tones. You don't do it with the darker ones. If it's too light within a light area, then you go back to a lighter tone. If you can't see that lighter tone, then just work incrementally until you move into the darker ones. Okay, here we go. Something like that. Okay. And in the sky, let's just go blue here. I think that's too dark of a blue there. Okay, so here we go. Blue on the outside to inside. This is it's like a rainy day type of thing. How's that? And let me get a little of this in the chapel too. Chapel is looking a little too anemic. Even if an object is supposed to be white, put a little tinge of some color on there. Otherwise it looks too separate from the objects around it. Okay, there's that little tinge of blue in there. Let's go a little bit darker. There's a Marvy blue for me. It's just a little bit darker than the summer sky. And I'm putting it down in my meadow as well in these areas, just so there's a little bit more continuity between sky and land and water. Blue is just a component of green, so you can do that. Let's go to Caribbean. I like that color. Look at that brightness right there. And let's mirror it up in the sky, or you can do it in the sky and mirror it in the water, whatever way you want to see it. Okay, oops, worked out pretty good. This one will really benefit from some foreground that we'll add in here into the scene later. We'll bring some of that Caribbean blue into your grassy area, I think, just for that continuity. You can see it pretty much right there. Ooh, that's really wet. All right, so you have that. You can put a little tinge of pink in there or something if you want to. Maybe mirror it up there in the sky, or you can just leave it like that. But look at that lighting right there, the retention of light. So there's like light up here in the sky, little tiny bit, right? Light in the meadow, light in the water. 1, 2, 3 areas, 1, 2, 3 areas of light. All right, let's see. And like I said, this one right here, it doesn't look like a complete scene because we're not done with these. You know, we're going to add in our things like foregrounds, embellishments, things like that. Gel pens if you have them. Things like that would be really fun. Okay, now let's see. I want to go with something a little bit different. Well, this one's not so different, but that'd be a moonlight scene. I think I would put some browns down here. I want to go with something a little bit warmer. Okay, let's go sunset sky with this one right here. This is your Palm Island, Seaside Cove, palm fronds down here, large. Let's go, okay, I don't have my colors. This could be like a twilight type of thing, like not the movie, but green tones, emerald green tones up in the sky, down in the water. But let's just go for your warm tones. I think a lot of people, you know, will associate sunsets with, you know, their notion of those yellows, oranges, reds, etc. Okay, let's go for something like that. I'll transition up into some darker tones as well. Let me see. Oh, that's rosemary. I thought that was pink. Oh, here's pink right here. Something like that. These two, can't tell which one's, you know, kind of darker than the other one, so if you can't tell, it doesn't really matter. Okay, like I said, mix and match too. You know, use your pads from other companies, whatnot. I want to get through this one quickly, so I'm just grabbing. Marvy's are real easy this way. Of course, they don't sell these dedicated cases anymore, but you can always kind of color code some sticker paper and put them on the side of the blank case that they have. Okay, so yellows, oranges, reds, right? Typical, you know, kind of sunset colorations right here. So we'll go yellows, oranges, reds. Not, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly that, but just in general, okay? All right, so line this down like so, okay. A lot of times I do this underneath my imagery, but I think this imagery is dried off sufficiently to where I can just go right over it, you know, without smearing the imagery, you know, the colors that are already laid down there. Okay, so see that I'm kind of doing this stronger in the middle, transitioning up and kind of fading it out a touch, okay, like that. All right. If you had a brayer, you can just, you know, rainbow brayer right over the top of it. You wouldn't be controlling the light as much, like within the waves or something like that, but it would look good. Okay, so here's a little bit of pink in here, okay. Like this, I'll transition this a touch, you know, down like this, okay. I'll transition this one up this way. This is just one way to do it, you know, there's all kinds of different ways you can do this. Okay, so we've gone through these two so far. This one's a really bright red, right, pink right here, so be a little bit careful about that, you know, if you do go into something like that. Okay, so see, as I kind of add this in here, I'm kind of transitioning it up this way and kind of tapering it down the other way into the colors that I've already applied. I'm not super familiar with this, doing it this way. I just I think I did this for the first time like last week, or whenever it was, whenever I did that kind of sunset, super bright toned scene that someone asked me about on Facebook. See that right there? Pink. Okay, let's go into orange. Maybe the orange should have been before the pink, you know. Probably so, but... Okay, so I'll go back in with this orange right here, and let's add a little bit more in between that pink, or I'll transition it into the pink a little bit more. Something like that. Okay. Looks pretty good. I kind of like to leave it a little bit streaky, too. Just like in my water, you know, for those other ones. Things don't have to be, like, exact. Okay, I think I need to switch out here. Let's go to a new area. A little bit of bleed through, but that's fine. Okay, let's go to red. Okay. And it doesn't have to be an exact mirror from top to bottom either. Okay. This is like a cherry red. If you have a warm red, that's fine. Whatever. What did you use? Whatever you have. I'm going to go over that wave. I've got rid of all my white light in here, so... Okay. Look at that deep red up there. Anyways, you get it? You know what I mean? See this area in here? It was lighter in there to begin with. So I'm kind of trying to retain a lot of that lightness. But it doesn't have to be white light, okay? It's just it's a really easy way to work doing those grayscales. But you know, to tell you the truth, I don't work that way most of the time. It just makes it really easy, though. Like the purity of colors and the intensity of these colors right in here would be a little bit brighter had I not laid down kind of a grayscale foundation coat. But I think it looks pretty good like that. And like I said, it's really super easy. I mean, you can really mass produce, you know, a lot of scenes like that. This is magenta right here. But it's just kind of like, it's like colorization of, you know, some prints or something like that, like they used to do on black and white photography, pre-color photography, color prints. And they did that out of necessity, but it kind of just became kind of its own look, too. You can buy, you know, you can probably still buy photo tinting dyes or inks, in like a little kit, and you can colorize your black and white photos if you want to. Okay. So right there. Nice transition of tones, values, and whatnot. Let's try a little bit of a violet, okay? Let's go put that up here. Okay. Kind of caps off this top really nicely, huh? That. Put a little down here too if you want to. Some tweaks on this one might be to, you know, add a little bit of black in here. But like I said, I'm not going to do that in this video. Let's keep it real short and simple. I mean, I've done a lot of scenes in here. Just, you know, if you're still with me, I want to just reiterate. Here's brown right here. I just putting a little bit of this underneath the shadows of the waves. Okay, and then going in with a violet or something like that, just a lighter tone. It doesn't even matter at this point. And kind of blending that shadow in a touch. These are alcohol inks, right? Going into these shadow areas. of the water. You're going to add some shadows around this island if I want to. Oh, maybe let's go a little bit brown on that one. Like this. Like that. And then you just go in with your kind of lighter version. And you're just going to blend that out like so. If you want to, you can color in those little bushes on that island too if you want to. Let's try that. Around that time of day, I don't think you'll see green, but let's just use that green anyway. Why not? A little bit of bushes on that island. Can't even barely see it, so let me go with a little bit of brighter green like this. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, so see that? A little bit of tinge of brown. I used purple on there and everything too. I can get underneath the waves here with those different tones and whatnot. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we have as far as the stage of the game. We've colored in several scenes here. Like I said, what I like to do is I like to, grab those pads out and just put in order from light to dark. And like I said, you can mix and match when you do it from light to dark. It takes all the guesswork out of it. You make things visual. If it blends to your eye, like that, it'll blend on the paper just fine. And you don't have to spend time, during the process, looking for a thing, pad or something like that. Just put them all out before you even start this right here. So we have some different color schemes working right here. I don't see these as being, completely resolved or anything like that. Not even with the colors. What I like to do is I like to add in, a little bit of a darker tone here or there, a little bit more shadow work. Certainly, that's just in terms of colors, though. Like black would be good. Just in terms of just rounding some of these shapes into form, some of these areas like that spindrift coming off. I'd add a little bit more black underneath the crest of the wave and whatnot. So we'll tweak these a little bit more in a future video, maybe the next one. And we're also going to be taking some of our uncolored stamp sketches, and we'll apply colors on these as well. This is just kind of your introduction types of thing. And I like it because it's, you already have your lighting established on there, so it's just an easy tint job. I added some more shadows and things like that for lighting as well with these colors. You can't help but do that, when moving into, some darker tones and whatnot. But just in large, by and large, I barely applied any color to this one at all, but it's just like tinting some colors on there. But look at that beautiful type of subtle gradations that you can achieve just by the use of a couple colors over a grayscale scene. So it just makes it really easy to do at this stage if you're kind of following along and if you're a beginner and whatnot. But try these, try some different color schemes. Go for, a violet type of night sky or something like that. Try for some emerald green seas, maybe in, a color scheme like that. We wouldn't think about something like that, but that can exist out there in nature, especially around twilight time or something like that. In certain areas, the sky looks, practically green. You can do, if you have enough kind of open sky. I don't know if I've left any open sky on any of these. They look pretty full. I don't know, like this one right here. You can do like a northern light type of thing in the background if you want to. So anyways, yeah, here's that other one. Here you can see where I've gone into certain areas in here and added a lot more black. That's the same Seaside Cove, using that one as in these two right here. But look at that water, it takes on a really different spirit. Just depending on the composition and the lighting scheme that you can apply to it. This one's lighter right here, a little bit more welcoming. This one's a little bit more kind of dark and kind of a different emotional quality to it, huh? But anyways, hope you stamped along with me. Hope you had a good time in terms of your kind of coloring experiments and tests here. And as always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, drop me a note in the comments section. If you like this video, hope you hit the like button. Thanks.